distinguishing Vedic literature from the rest of the literature. Now, about the word Vedas, let me make it clear that in different sampradayas we have a different understanding about what to call Vedas and what not. But here we are sticking with an enumerative definition. Certain texts which have been sanctified in the tradition as Vedic texts, especially by the requirement of Upanayanam for teaching and learning certain texts, that that highlight, that sort of distinguishes Vedic text from the rest of the texts. So this includes many texts which are called Sengupta, Brahman, Aranyaka, Upanishad, and such texts. But when you go by the type, then the types we can divide the Vedic text into two: mantra and Brahman portion. And mantra are again of three types: Rig, Yaju, and Sama. And Brahmanas are the literature which basically uses those mantra either into certain karma, rituals, or certain vidyas. So mostly Brahma Vidya or Prana Vidya or etc. So now here our purpose is studying ancient history. So my overall scope has been studying both the Desha and Kala. I have in my work established many things, but today we will restrict ourselves to some evidences, some new and some already discussed in literature, but which needs rectification of interpretation. So we will be discussing those evidences in Vedic literature, mostly Brahman Grantha, which show, which reflect upon their time. Now, which will be the reflection? What will be reflected in that text? Let me first state my position, which is a conservative position. I am not talking about the beginning of the text. I am talking about the times when the texts were last revised. So that is sort of what is called canonization. Though the texts are oral, their patha was frozen, and that freezing of the patha is ascribed to certain acharyas, and this process is memorized, it's made immemorable by the Paniniya Sutram Tena Proktam Chando Brahmanani cha Tad Vishayani. And then there is a sequence of sutras which talks of acharyas in whose name the texts are known. And today the tradition continues, and we will be focusing upon that period. We will presume that our whatever period that we derive from the ritualistic, whatever prescriptions the texts are making, then that entails a certain juxtaposition of seasons against nakshatras, seasons against months, and this juxtaposition, fortunately or unfortunately, because of a natural phenomena of presently called precession of axis of Earth, basically not anticipated in these texts as such. The texts are assuming this as a timeless prescription, but we know now today very clearly that they have whatever the description there is outdated, and because of the scientific precise understanding that we have today, we are able to see the difference between the one which is described in the text and one which is at present, and then we are able to map the time period we are able to judge. There are certain difficulties. I will come to the specifics, but first I will begin with a wonderful new evidence. Now that's a sort of a discovery. And why? Because it has been there always in the text. But it appears that the scholar, it has escaped the attention of the scholars. Now the text is the Jaiminiya Brahman text. As is well known, this Jaiminiya text was the last one to be published. Raghuvira and etc. and his son, in fact, it was published as late as 1950s, the complete text, and that is why probably because it has escaped the scholars, because most of the scholars which are well known in the literature belong to the 19th century end, like Lokmanya Tilak and Shankar Balakrishna Dikshit, and followed by Professor Sengupta in 1938 to 1947. So naturally, because it was not published till that time, so this text has escaped them. And of course, the modern scholars might have seen it, but I have not seen anybody talking about it. Let us start with that description. And this first, I am drawing attention of all the scholars that whoever works with ancient history must understand that the state of art, the state d'art as it is called, that is to say the parlance, the common parlance of the people, it is reflected in this Vedic text of the time, and it has not been modified, and hence it has retained the stamp of antiquity. Now with this, I am introducing the usage of associative month names. Now people will wonder, those who are familiar with Mahabharata scholars, they assume that Ramayana has a month called Chaitra with Shukla Paksha Navami, and then we have Mahabharata texts like Magh Shukla Saptami. Now these type of usages, do you think they are abundant in Vedic texts? The fact is, they are not. There is a sparing use of the names of the months itself in the Vedic text. Sparing. And here follows the actual list of all the places. An exhaustive search of the Vedic literature leads us to these type of usages. What is it? First of all, what is already known? Kaushitaki Brahman, we have Ashadhya, Taishasya Amavasya, Maghasya Amavasya, and Chaitrasya Amavasya. 4 usages. Then we have Tandya Brahman, Falgune, Yat Falguna. You can see the references. So now one who works with ancient history has to understand that this is what is called the long form of the month name. Tishya Purnamase. It doesn't say Taisha Masaha. Taittiriya Samhita never uses an associative month name. It only uses the name of the Purnima associated with the nakshatra, which gives the what is called associative month name. Jaiminiya Brahman has Falgunasya Amavasya. So we can say that it uses the associative month name, but only one instance. Maitrayani Samhita again has a Falguni Purnamasa. It has no associative month name. Shatapatha Brahman has Vaishakhasya Amavasya, which is an associative name, again a singular reference. Interestingly, when going through the Jaiminiya Brahman, I discovered the last Anuvaka of Jaiminiya Brahman has a very interesting passage, and please read with me. Falguno Vaimasa Vadashahasya Prathama Maha. Remember, I will comment upon this, but note it. Falguno Vaimasa Vadashahasya Prathama Maha. The list begins with Falguna. Second is Chaitro Dvitiyam Vaishakhas Trutiyam. Now nothing very peculiar about this, but note that Jyeshtha Masa is skipped. And we have Ashadha Paurnamasas Chaturtha. Further, fifth one is a very interesting usage. Shrona Shravishtaha Panchamam. Now it is not Shravana Masa. It is Shrona Shravishta. Two nakshatras have been coupled. Shrona is Shravana and Shravishta is Dhanishta nakshatra, and both have been coupled into the 5th month. Note it. Then we have another very interesting thing. Shata Vishajaha Shashtham. Now this usage never heard of in the later literature, Smarta literature, or any of the even late Vedic literature, by which I mean the Shrouta Sutras. The Shata Vishajaha Shashtham. Then again, then the list is very simple. Proshtapada Saptamam, Ashvayajaha Ashtamam, etc. Taishaha Ekadasham, which is the name of Paushmasa, and then Magho Dvadasham. Now, this is of course in the context of a ritual called Dvadashaha. Now, what is this Dvadashaha, etc.? I will not burden the listeners, but let it be understood that none of these statements are meant to be astronomical statements. They are not documents of any astronomical observation. They are actually either prescriptive text, when a certain ritual is proposed to be done, then it's what is called SOP. It's a statement of procedure. The whole procedure is outlined, and while outlining the procedure, there are certain what are called Arthavada statements, which describes. Arthavada does not mean, as some people might have, those who have a bit of familiarity with the Shastra. Arthavada is generally considered as superfluous or what are called fabulous statements, but that is not correct understanding. Arthavada means factual statements. They can be Mukhyavada or it can be a Gaunavada, but essentially it is a statement of what is called Bhutam, Bhutarthavada, because it distinguishes the rest of the Vedic text, which is called Vidhivada, where the act is to be performed, the result of which is going to be in future. So whenever a Vedic text describes present or past, Atitam or Vartamanam, then that part of the text is called Arthavadaha, and that part of the text of Vedas is called Anuvadaha. It is not held as a primary testimony. It is not what is called, it is not Pramana Bhutam. It has to relate to the Pratyaksham. If it follows Pratyaksham, then it is held as Anuvadaha. If it is against Pratyaksham, then it is called Gaunavada, etc. So now what is this type of statement? This type of statement is a Bhutarthavada. It merely enumerates months in an order. Why? What is the purpose of ordering these months in such a fashion which is unheard of in the rest of the Smarta literature? Now, this is a challenge. This would be a challenge to all the Mahabharata students, because this Jaimini is supposed to be a Shishya or a Prashishya of Krishna Dvaipayana Veda Vyasa, who is supposed to be the composer of Mahabharata and who is supposed to be the compiler of the Vedic literature. He is the one who is ascribed by tradition with the highest honor of being the Acharya, who started a new tradition of specialized learning of Vedic text. He divided the Vedic text, it is said, in 4 types, what are called Artvijya Vibhagena. For Hota, there is a Rigved, for Advaryu, it is Yajurved, for Udgata, it is Samved, and for Brahma, it is Atharvaveda. So this new tradition is ascribed to Krishna Dvaipayana Veda Vyasa and his Shishyas, direct disciples. There were 4 of them, it is said, and then there again Shishyas and Prashishyas, And in that tradition, this text is supposed to have been canonized. Now, remember, the usage, either it is a Vedic usage or it is a Laukik. Laukika Vaidikayo Shabdanam Samyam. They are Sama. If Vedic names, Vedic usages were to be different from the Laukik usages, then Vedic text would be, again, it will need a further effort to understand. So, Mimamsakas have established, and it is beyond doubt, that Vedas as being recited today were definitely being in the dialect of some time where it was of a common parlance, when people, the Yajamanas, the Rutvijas, they were able to understand, they were speaking in that language, they were able to share these thoughts as fresh thoughts, not merely as some standard text. You know, for example, for us today, Sanskrit text appears to be some merely classical language, but such was not the expected situation when Vedas were being sort of what I call canonized or frozen. So at that time, we understand that this Jaimiya text, it clearly shows that Falgun was the first month. Now, those scholars who are familiar with the situation would naturally note that the next text, which is after this, there is a text which is a astronomical, particularly astronomical text, and that text is called Vedanga Jyotisha. Now, what is the first month in Vedanga Jyotisha? Interestingly, everybody should understand that Magha became the first month. Now, Magha is the 12th month in this list, while for Vedanta Jyotish, Magha became the first month. And, of course, as I already pointed out, Shrona Shravishta became Shravana, and Shatabishaj month lost its place, and it was the Jyeshtha month was introduced. Now, the reasons for such changes are very interesting to discuss, but I will not burden presently the discussion with finer points. I have only mentioned this as a recent discovery, and it is a very interesting discovery, and we will discuss the significance of this a little later, but it should be noted by the scholars, all the points that I have mentioned, especially the Mahabharata scholars. Those who believe that Mahabharata text reflects the actual evidence, actual observations, record of observations. All those scholars who treat Mahabharata text discussing Shukra, Bruhaspati, Shanaishcharaha, they should understand that not only these names are totally absent from this Vedic text, not a single reference, the exhaustive searches have been made. I will discuss that, I can discuss it, but here I am stressing the point that look at this. This is the, you may call it primitive, but I actually have a different explanation. This is what is fresh from the nature. This is actually what is being observable. There is absolutely empiricalness in these Vedic texts. I have been studying this text for the last 30 years, and I am very happy to share with, actually, I have also been following the Mimamsa tradition of Anaditvam Vedasya. I have been also following the tradition of Nityatvam Vedavangmayasya. But the evidences are incontrovertible, and the understanding of this phenomena of recession, and of course there are so many other things like the disappearance of Saraswati, and of extinction of certain animals, and changes in the seasonal patterns and so on, has forced us to unequivocally we have to accept that the Vedics, whatever text, whatever they believed to be Nitya, has unfortunately become So I sorry to use that word. It is sort of, it needs further reflection. At least let me put it like softly like this. Now let me go to the further evidences, which are, some of them are known to others and some of them will be new. I am reminding the listeners that all these Vedic texts are dealing with actually rituals, and we have to extract from this rituals we have a Ritu of Shishira. And then the Shishira Ritu will not always begin on the same lunar tithi. All the scholars doing work with this are very familiar with this. But how does then let's say a prescriptive statement, we might require the month of the season of Shishira to be specified, beginning of the Shishira Ritu. It will need a convention. Over the 5 years, which is the least oscillation time, or you can even think of 3 years. 3 years, 5 years, people have discovered 19-year cycle, and then more and more precise you become, larger and larger periods are needed for the specific observation to be repeated. Now, all these difficulties overcome when we follow a convention. So when was what is the convention of Vedic text for the beginning of Shishira Ritu? That is the interesting question. That decides the epoch of Veda Shakhas, which will span across all the texts. Now in that, I have come across what is called Vedic texts of what are called ritual of Chaturmasya. Now these Chaturmasya is a very interesting ritual which is spanned over the year and spanned over many years. Particulars are, it might be difficult for me to share, but if I discuss in a very succinct manner, this Chaturmasya, the first parva is called Vaishwadeva Parva. It is done on Phalguni Purnamasi, which is also by ample evidence, by many references, is proven to be the conventional beginning of the new year. Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra and Purva Phalguni Nakshatra both are associated with Purnamasi. Purva Purnamasi of Purva Phalguni will be deemed as the last day of the previous year, and Uttara Phalguni Purnamasi will be deemed as, it is a convention that it will be deemed as the beginning of the next year. Now, scholars are going to argue, I have seen already, that we are, because the more ancient we want the timeline to be, the seasons that are to be associated with this Phalguni Purnamasi have to be different. Presently, if we are all aware, we are little observant, we know that Phalguni Purnamasi, which is also the holy Utsav that we generally presently perform commonly, that Phalguni Purnamasi presently happens in almost middle of the Vasanta Ritu. Once upon a time, such was not the case. This Phalguni Purnamasi, Lokmanya Tilak went with a very cursory look at this text. He didn't bother about the ritualistic processes, and he simply assumed that Phalguni Purnamasi for Vedic text is the winter solstice, that is Uttarayanam. But I am able to reflect from such horde of, I have in fact a lot of literature here which suggests that no, such was not the case. In fact, Phalguni Purnamasi happened to be the upper limit, that is in the oscillation of the lunar month over the seasons. Phalguni Purnamasi happened to be the upper limit of the Uttarayanam. So it was assured that Falguni Purnamasi would definitely happen in the Shishira Ritu. Now, how does one come to such conclusions, and what is the level of confidence? I will request all of us to bear with me, and I will show as far whatever is possible in this presentation, that the level of confidence about this statement of mine is extremely high. Now, this Falguni Purnamasi Vaishwadeva Tantram is done after 4 months, and here the texts are very clear. It is says if you do it at Falguni Purnamasi, then the next parva will be done at Shravanyam. Falguni Arambe Sati Shravanyam Chaitri Prayogasya Shravanayam Ashadhyam Varuna Prakasa. Sorry. If you do with Falguni Purnamasi, then Ashadi Purnima will be Varuna Prakasa, the second part. And Kartike Purnamasi will be Sakamedha. And after that, another parva is to be done, which is called Shunasiriam, which is to be done before the coming Falguni Purnamasi or Maghi Purnamasi. Now, what does this cycle show? This is a Samvatsara cycle, 4 months division, and very interestingly, we have a 5-year performance of this in this text. You can see this is Kathak Samhita, also Maitrayani Samhita, and it shows 5-year process. Such a Rujugastri Nishtva Chaturtha Musujeta, Rujuto Para Ishtva Trutiya Musujeta. What it means is, for 3 years, you perform like this. Like you start with Falguni, then you perform after 4 months, 4 months, and again 4 months. So again, after 12 months, you will be performing the next year, Vaishwadeva, first Parva. Now, Vaishwadeva Parva. But what you do is, on the 4th year, after performing it for 3 years straight, in the 4th year, you leave 1 month. It clearly says, Chaturtham Utsruje, Chaturthe Varshe Masam Utsruje. And again perform for 2 years, for 12 months, and then again leave for 1 month. Trutiyam Utsruje. So what it means? We have this, what is typically described in Vedanga Jyotish as 5-year Yuga. We don't have mention of 5-year Yuga as such in this Vedic text. Remember this. Even we don't have even that, even such a mention is missing in this Vedic text. But as a part of ritual of Chaturmasya, such a procedure of having 2 adhikas, it is not called Adhikmasa. They are just skipping that month for the performance of Chaturmasya Yaga. Now, after this description, I have another very interesting thing for the scholars to understand. Those who are dealing already with Vedanga Jyotish and who are familiar with what is called Samvatsar, Parivatsar, and such names. I was talking about Chaturmasya, right? Screen has gone elsewhere. Chaturmasya. Now here, please kindly bear with me because this system is cursor. I am trying to show it on this. A lot of technical disturbance. Please note, kindly bear with me. Samvatsarinam Swastimāsha Aste. Now here is a very interesting reference. Vijay scholars generally seem to assume that Samvatsara, Parivatsara are the names of 5 years in a yuga. I have discovered that such is not the practice, Vedic practice. The Vedic practice shows that Varuna Prakasa Parva of Ashadha Varsha Purnima is having the mantra Parivatsarinam Swastimashaste. Then we have the Sakameda Parva with the words Idavatssarinam Swastimashaste. And we have Shunasiriya done either on the Magha Purnima or the Phalgun Purnima next. It is called Anuvatsarinam Swastimashaste. What does it mean? This shows, this can be seen as 32, 1, 64, 2, 96, 3. What does it mean? Scholars will kindly note that actually Adhika Masa does not happen in 30 months. It actually happens in 32 months. The way the Vedanta Jyotish is placed, it generally appears to be specifying 2 Adhikas in 5 years, which comes out to be 30 months for a Adhika. But Vedic practice appears to be, you have 32 months because you have this Samvatsara. If you start at Phalguni Purnima, then your Parivatsara will happen on the Ashadi Purnima, which is actually 32 months. Next, the Sakameda. Sakameda will happen on the, because 24 plus 8, 32 months. Then you will have one month to skip, and you will have this Phalguna as a, after the 13th month. So if you understand, the actual Adhika Masa in the Vedic reckoning is almost 32 months, which is a very interesting thing. There is no what is called analytical method for this. It is an empirical approach towards adjusting seasons over the lunar months. Now with this information, we will go to the next evidence of what is called Agnyadhana. The next, I hope everybody is listening. May I get a prompt from others?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Okay. Am I audible to all?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Siddharth? Should
Yes,
I proceed?
sir, you are audible. Yeah. Please proceed.
Okay. And the screen is also visible?
Yes, everything is proper. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything is proper.
Now we come to the Agnyadhana. Agnyadhana is the next ritual which which throws up interesting information about the juxtaposition of the nakshatra and the rutu. Because Agnyadhana is the only procedure where nakshatras are being prescribed. Now this is very interesting. Those scholars who are talking about planets in Vedic times, they should understand that nakshatra themselves appear to be a very late entry into the Vedic text. Why I say so? It is interesting to note that Aitareya Brahman is totally absent of any nakshatra reference. The kind of references which are found for nakshatras in the other literature, they are also considered as what are called like when Agnyadhana is done, Rutun Neksheta Nakshatram. Nakshatra is considered as the lowest priority. Highest priority of the Rutu, and next is the Parva, and the third one is the Nakshatra. Now, in this case also, it is important to know that what would be, because those scholars who believe that Phalguni Purnamasi could be drawn to, let us say, autumnal equinox. Because if I want to go, let's say 6,000 years further backwards for this Vedic literature, then I will have to move from Vedic, this winter solstice towards the autumnal equinox for these months. Now, the point is, such is not the indication of the Vedic text. All these Vedic texts of Agnyadhana shows that Shishira was the most preferred Rutu season for Agnyadhana. Sarva Varnikam, for all Varnas, Traivarnikas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, the Agnyadhana ritual is can be performed in Shishira. If particularly Varna-based choice is to be made, then Vasanta is to be preferred for Brahman and so on. Grishma for Kshatriya and Varsha for Vaishya. Hello?
Pramodji, please mute yourself, Pramodji. Okay, Mrugenji, please continue.
Hello?
Carry on. Yeah.
Agnadhan. This cursor, why is it not pulling down? It should roll down. Now these are the evidences of Agnadhana, which again I will, if I restrict myself, if I cursorily mention, what is the indicative period? The Agnadhana literature shows that the period of this Vedic text, when these all observations would be most pertinent, most empirically correct, the period is from -2900 to -1850. Now, this is a big reckoner for those scholars who believe, those from the other side, not from our group, the other side, which is, we'll call it mainstream. The mainstream scholars are believing that these Brahmana texts are to be assigned in the period from 1200 BCE to 600 BCE. Now they have to reckon with this very strong evidence, which is extremely empirical in its nature. So it qualifies to be an evidence, the real observational evidence, and it is assignable to, I have given the widest range, -2900 to -1850. From our group, some people are very uncomfortable with such late periods. We are very fond of assuming that Kali Samvatsara of -3102 BCE is a Vedic reckoning. It has been popular right from the Vedic, and by Vedic I mean the latest period, the canonization period, and they also assume that it has been in vogue right from whatever they believe to be what is called Saptarshi Samvatsara. But unfortunately, my observation shows otherwise. These are not stretchable before -2900. Remember, there is an ample evidence which allows me to restrict myself to this window. Let me proceed further. Beyond this Agnadhana, I will come to this Dvadashaha Diksha. Now this Dvadashaha Diksha is the most elaborate, most what is called verbose description of seasons and sparing use of month names, and that is what is called final nail on the coffin of those people who believe Vedic text to be very late, and those who might also be fond of believing Vedic text to be too old, especially this canonization. Remember always, whenever I mean Vedic text, I am actually pressed, I am forced to again and again say this. By this I only mean canonized text. The text as it is apparent today, it must have been revised over the time. I am not talking about the origin or beginning of anything. But I am talking about, I am forced to accept that there is this text, because they were not revised, because they were, as what we call, they were frozen in the names of those acharyas like Taittiriya, Tandya, Kaushitaki, Aitareya, and such holy names, which are all worshipped by many other means also, like Puranas also, and Gotranamas also. And all these, it shows this Dvadashaha Diksha Prakaranam is very important. This particular passage, all scholars should note. It says, Piva dikshate krusho yajate, shishire dikshante, vasante uttishtanti, shishire va etasya prayanam, vasante utthanam. Shishire dikshate vasante uttishtate iti vidnyayate. So this is a apastamba statement which is referring to a Brahman statement. It is referred as iti vidnyayate. So the Brahmana text says Shishira was the month of Diksha. Now what is this Diksha? Whenever a Satra, not only Satra, any Somayaga begins with what is called a procedure of Diksha. For a Satra, this Diksha generally lasts for 12 days. For 12 days you have to fast and you have to do certain other penance. And after that, the Somayaga starts. And the Somayaga is continuous day by day. And there is a counting and there is a procedure for describing which type of Soma has to be performed on which day, first, second, like that. So the Prakriti of these Satras is Veda Shakhas, which has the 12 days of Diksha. Then there is a 12 days of Sutya, the performance of Somayaga. And here is a very specific statement made bold by me. Shadvyushtaha chaitrasya apuryamana pakshasya atha diksheranna. Remember this usage, apuryamana pakshasya. Even it doesn't mention even the word called Shukla Paksha. It is very interesting to note. And remember, all these words are what it reflects the common usage. It is the common parlance. You cannot bring in Shukla Paksha right into this Vedic period because it is mentioned as a very long form. Apuryamana pakshasya, apakshiyamana pakshasya. We don't have even words like Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha. Forget about tithis. We never have a mention of tithi. Shadavyushtaha chaitrasya. 6 days, 6 mornings have elapsed of Chaitra. Apuryamana Paksha. That means when the Purnima is going to occur on Chitra, so the previous Amavasya has happened. After that, after 6 days have gone, then the Diksha should be performed. What does it mean? This reflects, I'm presently not bothering you. The scholars are welcome to discuss how does it reflect on the time period. So here I have shown a little bit of here I show that when this statement goes like this, how does one know in which time this apastamba Shrouta Vakyam and the Pramana Bhutam Brahmanam Vakyam, what is that? In which period it is allowed to be empirically correct? Then it is shown that that Diksha is on Chaitra Shashti. Then what will happen is the lower limit for this happens to be minus 1300. And of course, the upper limit of this statement to be correct is, according to me, which is I'm ready to discuss with scholars, would be minus 3900. So the period in which this statement would make sense, would be appropriate. Afterwards, this statement must have become what is called, as we know from Sayana Bhashya, when he is unable to make proper meaning out of the statement, then he starts pulling the statement apart. And I will show it in probably if time permits, and if scholars are interested, I have actually discussed it in how in Taittiriya Bhashyam he has tried to show that all these statements are valid even in his time, which is the 13th century Vijayanagaram, according to the mainstream. And in which case, of course, it makes no sense because as he has shown, Shaishira, for him, Magha is part of Shishira. While the Vedic text, always Magha is the end of Hemanta Ritu. So we have in this lactine Shrouta Sutra. Hello, everybody. Then we have this lactine Shrouta Sutra. I will not burden all of us. Then we have this Samvatsar Satra Diksha in Kaushitaki Brahman. This has been discussed by, in fact, Professor Sengupta also, and it is very straightforward. If I read the Anuvaka and I invite all the scholars, not only scholars, here I will invite even all the people to see that how beautiful the statements are, how empirical they are, how fresh from the nature they are. There is no smell, there is no smattering of analytical, there are no calculations, there are no panchangas. Let us see how it goes. Te purastadeva diksha prasavan kalpayante taishasya amavasyayaha ekaha uparishtad diksheranna maghasyava ityahuhu. Now here great scholar Sengupta was confused. Here it says either next day of Pausha Amavasya, which happens to be the Magha Shukla Pratipada, or next day of the Magha Amavasya, that would be Falgun Shukla Pratipada. Taishasya Amavasyayaha Ekaha Uparishtad Maghasyava. Tad Ubhayam Yuditam. Both are being discussed. Taishasyatva Uditataramiva. But Taishasya is better. It is better to say so. Uditataram means it is better to say so. Tayetam trayodasham adhicharam masam apnuvanti. Because if you do it at Magha Shukla Pratipada, then we have trayodasham adhicharam masam. That third adhicharam, that means infrequent, sometimes which comes in, that 13th month, that is being like taken care of. Apnuvanti. Etavan vai samvatsaraha yadeshat trayodasho masaha. Tad atraiva sarvaha samvatsaraha apto bhavati. Now, what meaning to be made out of this? If what we actually are supposed to do from this is, we are trying to find out this Magha Shukla Pratipada, which used to happen for Vedanta Jyotish as the winter solstice, deemed winter solstice. Those who are familiar with Vedanta Jyotish, they know that Dhanishta for the Magha Shukla Pratipada was supposed to be the Yugasya Adi Yuga. The first day of the Yuga begins at that. It used to be. But the convention was that. But such was not the case in the Vedic period. What it means is, Vedas are actually 1 month behind Vedanta Jyotish, which requires minimum, give it at least 1000 years. So if Vedanta Jyotish, if people are comfortable with dating even say 700 BC, of course it should be dated at somewhere reasonably at 1100 or 1400 or at the most, of course. But even if one takes a conservative opinion and dates following Tushyantu Durjana Nyaya, even if we allow David Pingree to be satisfied and assume that Vedanta Jyotish is in 700 BC, then also all those friends of ours should know that they should at least give 1000 years for this Vedic text to be empirically correct, which means they should be these Brahmana texts. Those texts which they believe to be in 600 BCE, they should understand that it is minimum placed in 1700 BCE, which brings them to contemporary period of what is called so-called degenerate Siswal or late Harappan or Bada or whatnot. When the population, the urban population had disappeared and shifted into what is called so-called late Harappan by them, and the area was between Yamuna and Saraswati. This is important. Those who are only dealing with Mahabharata will find this, how is this important? But actually, those who want to make sense of the whole text also have to make sense with their place of living and the evidences left by them in forms of physical remnants. So I have actually tried to connect all those, and here what I say is this Kaushitaki passage. Look at it, the next statement. It's a very, very challenging statement. Savai maghasya amavasyaya upavasati udam avarsyana. Now look at this statement. What does it show? Savai maghasya amavasyaya. He has given up that first option. First option was either begin with Magha Shukla Pratipada or begin with Falgun Shukla Pratipada. Then he says, no, forget. Let us begin with Magha Amavasya. Upavasati. Udangavartsyan. What does it mean? If we start our Soma, that is Sutya, on Magh Amavasya, or the day following that, that is Falgun Shukla Pratipada, then he says Udangavartsyan. Now those who are Sanskrit scholars will understand this usage. Udang avartsyanna. Sun is about to go north. Upeme vasanti prayaniyena tiratrena. This is a direct evidence that for this Kaushitaki Brahmana preacher, the deemed Uttarayan is on the next day of Magha Amavasya. That is Falgun Shukla Pratipada. So this brings it, this is a very tough task for those who do not want this Vedic text to be too old, and it is also tough on those people who want it to be too early. This is very, it is not a very narrow statement, because this is a general statement. This is not a precisely datable statement. So it begins with, its median period is minus 2900. It is valid for 1,000 years after this, and it would have been valid for 1,000 years before this also. And because it would be happening somewhere, sometimes on Magha Amavasya. But it would be most often happening after 2900, and people would be making such statements. Try to understand this thing. When some phenomena becomes very, ordinary, then only it becomes part of, ritualistic statements. Like for example, today Holi, we believe it to be a Falgun, we believe it to be a Vasanta Utsava. We ordinarily believe that it is part of Vasanta. But because since 1450, since the time of Varamira, for 1400 or so, going by the mainstream, since that time it has been so. So slowly we adopt, and this is a slow adoption. So I am very conservative in my approach and trying to figure out that it could be all the way up to 1900 BC also for this statement to have been mentioned by this Acharya like this. Savai Magasya Amavasya Upavasati Udangavarsyanna Upeve Vasanti, etc. Now, those who doubt that this is winter solstice, there is a further reference here which seals the matter. Sa Shadmasam Udangeti. Tamurdvai Shadahi Anayanti Sa Shadmasam Udangitva Tishtate Dakshinavarsyana Upeme Vasanti Vaishuvati Anna. This is another common misunderstanding of the scholars. They believe that Vishuvan is the equinox, because all the planetary astronomy, Siddhanta astronomy of India talks of Vishuvan as the equinox day. But remember, not in Vedic literature. In Vedic literature, for a Samvatsar Satra, Vishuvan is the central day. You always begin at winter solstice, and naturally the central day will be somewhere around the what is called summer solstice.
Mrugenji, sorry to interrupt you. It is already 8:11, so we should also look at the time.
I can stop at this point. Yeah. Siddhartha, I will just finish this Anuvaka and throw it open for others to comment. And then it continues. It goes to say Shadudangeti Dakshina Nitya, and then it says Tadvina Tasmin Kare Dikshiran Anagatam Sasyam Bhavati Daharakani Ahani Bhavanti Samvepamana Avabhrutha Dudayanti Tasmadatra Dikshiran Chaitrasya Amavasyaya Ekaho Purishta Dikshiran Agatam Sasyam Bhavati Mahanti Ahani Bhavanti Asambepamana Avabhrutha Dudayanti Tasmadetat Sthitam. And for us also it is Sthitam that Vaishakha Shukla Pratipada was the deemed beginning of Vasanta Rutu, and you can see the difference from today, and this text is datable to -2900 to -1900. Okay, I will rest with this. There is lot more material to share, but slowly we can discuss. There is Kaushitaki Brahman, then there is Taittiriya Samhita, then Tandya Brahman, then Taittiriya Samhita, then there is Jaiminiya Brahman, and there is so much material. Okay, I welcome participants to comment.
Okay, thank you, Mrugenji. Thank you very much. This was really a very good information from the ancient text. And now the floor is open for the discussion, but we cannot take the very long discussion. So I will actually request with to Vedveer ji, if you may kindly discuss anything, you please come.
Namaste Mrugendra ji.
Namaskar.
Am I audible?
I'm listening. I am able to listen to you.
Yes. I think we have discussed numerous times. What I have already indicated that we have to take autumnal equinox as the beginning of the Magha Shukla, Magha Amavasya during the Rigvedic period. If you look at this now, that Vaishuvati Yena Ahna, during Vedic period, this Udanga Avatsyan means the going towards north. Actually, they used to calculate from the equinox that goes to 90-degree north side and it will come back to the zero. So this is how they have taken Udanga. And other 90-degree and again back to 0-degree, that was the Dakshinayana. Later, when autumnal equinox, that Magha Shukla Pratipada shifted to Uttarayana during Mahabharata period, then they started taking the Uttarayana to Dakshinayana as a complete Uttarayana.
Yes, please wait. You are done here. What you have mentioned that. In fact, I anticipated you in my talk. I have already said that. If you have already noted, I already anticipated you. But remember, if you want autumnal equinox, it will be Dakshina Varsyan. It will not be Udanga Varsyan. Do you agree with me?
No, you have to take
if Magha Amavasya, Vedvirji, let us be specific. Magha Amavasya, the next day, it is Udanga Varsyan. So it should be, according to you, it should be Vasanta Sampata, which it is yet to happen.
No, not Vasanta Sampata.
If it were Sharada Sampata, if it were the autumnal equinox, why don't you understand? Then it would be Dakshina Varsyan. It defies your meaning. It is Udanga Varsyan at Magha Amavasya. So even if I grant, for the sake of the argument, Abhyupagamya Maya Uchyate, even if I assume that Udanga Varsyan is going into the northern hemisphere, then also it has to be the Vasanta Sampata, which is not the case. Because in fact, in my talk, just a second, there is a ample other information available in that Anuvaka. Anagatam Sasyam Bhavati, Agatam Sasyam Bhavati. This statement leaves no scope for maneuver for you to interpret it otherwise. This is Udanga Varsyan. It is definitely going north. Shad Masa Udangachati. Vaishuvatiya Anna is not equinox. I can prove it. In fact, there are many Anuvakas to follow. This is a specific discussion. I don't want any theories. I don't want any speculations. I want you to talk about a statement. And Vaishuvatiya Anna, I will be able to draw out the complete. In fact, I have already drawn and I have shared the PDF with you. Kindly go through it. There is a list of every day what to do. And this Vaishuvatiya Anna is the summer solstice. It is Mahadiva Kirtyam Aha. It is the summer. It is the end of the Grishma. It is the beginning of the Varsha Ritu. It is provable from these passages. In fact, the passage which follows in Tandya Brahmana and Jaiminiya Brahmana and Taittiriya Samhita all leave no scope for maneuver from anywhere, from any other conclusion than what I have drawn, which is the first day after Magha Amavasya is the earliest reference in Vedic text for Uttarayanam. Kindly, I don't want your Sharadi, Jivema Sharada Shatam is no authority. See, somebody might call Jivema Shatam, Shatanta Hemanta in Dishi Eti. The year is called Varsha, year is called Sharada, year is called Hemanta. This is called Upalakshana. This is the way the Vedic texts have been talking about the year as a whole, because every Ritu is going to happen only once in the Samvatsara. But you cannot jump to a conclusion just because there is a Jivema Sharada Shatam so many times in the Vedic text. You are speculating that in Rigveda times, Sharad was the beginning of the Samvatsara. But none of because I am not bothered about Rigveda mantras. I am bothered about the rituals which are to be practiced. Remember, they are not open for merely armchair discussion. It has been discussed by my Mimamsakas. It has been, Tatparya Nirnayam can be done. Every statement can be fixed to its meaning and it leaves. I request you to kindly bear with these, whatever descriptions there. Please go through yourself. And at least for this text, particular text, see, Kaushadiki Brahman, it cannot be dated beyond -2900 in a comfortable way. So on. I can bring you to Jaiminiya Brahmanam and so on. Please.
हाँ मृगेंद्र जी, मैं ना आपके जो वो PDF फाइल मेरे को मिल गया है. What I will do, I will go through all your those references you have collected very painstakingly. I will go through that one. I will also request you, it is not only Jivema Sharada Shatam, even Yajurveda starts with the Ishe Tvorje Tva Vayava. Ishe Tvorje, the mantra starts from the Sharadritu only. If you look at the Pururava Urvashi Sukta, in Urvashi stayed 4 years with the Pururava, later she left Pururava. Then she says Ushitva Chatasraha Sharadaha. She is talking about she lived for 4 Sharad Ritus. So entire Vedic text, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, they have only Sharad as a synonymous to Samvatsara. So you can think upon that also. Otherwise, you have to place even there is no place for Mahabharata.
Even today, Vedvirji, see, our Samvatsara, anyway, these are non-specific discussions are actually to be avoided at this juncture. We can personally keep discussing these things. Sharadva Asyam Vikas Swasa. The reason why Sharad is considered the most difficult Ritu is, I will give you a direct reference from Vedas. Sharadva Asyam Vikas Swasa. Sharad is the sister or mother of Rudra. Because Sharadiva Enam Hanti. Because the most difficult Ritu to cross over is Sharad. Now another thing that you mentioned about Ishet Vorjetva, it has no reference to Sharad Ritu. It is a mantra. See, I am a student of Vedas. The first mantra, it is our first. We begin with our Ishet Vorjetva, and I know where it is to be used. What is it? What is Urk? It might be the name of a month, but here it is not being used as a name of a month. It is being used to bring a Palasha Shakha, and Palasha Shakha has nothing to do with Sharad Ritu, but that Palasha Shakha, it is used for Vatsapakaranam. It is to separate a Vatsa from the cow for the Sayam Doha. Because unless the Vatsa is separated from the cow, milk cannot be got in the evening. So in the morning, what you do is you bring a Palasha Shakha by this mantra called Ishet Vorjetva Shakhama Chinatti. It has nothing to do with Sharad Ritu. So when such non-specific references, you cannot jump, because this is a specific reference. You have to tackle it, sir. I request you, because you are a very sincere and very honest student, I am requesting you, don't because इसमें कोई पक्षपात नहीं है ना वीर जी, इसमें मेरा कुछ नहीं है, ये वेद मंत्र, ये जो वेद वांग्मय है ये आपका उतना ही है जितना मेरा है, और मेरे से भी अधिक है आपका। तो मैं तो यही कहूंगा कि आप इसके ऊपर सहृदयता से हम वार्ता करते रहेंगे, परंतु अभी जो मैंने वार्ता की सब लोगों के सामने प्रत्यक्ष रखी, अभी और लोगों को भी सुन लेते हैं किसने क्या सुना, क्योंकि आप और हम तो खिलाड़ी है ना।
So this is the beauty of our, ancient knowledge system, and the beauty of the scholars like you, the great scholars, both of you. So I think this kind of discussion will go very long, and because we have some limitation of time at moment, so I will request to any other participant to have one more question, because we are already late. So anyone else who wants to?
टेक्नोलॉजी की कृपा से बहुत लेट हो गया।
Yes, yes.
सिद्धार्थ, कुछ तो टेक्नोलॉजी की कृपा से, और कुछ मेरे जैसे हम
नहीं sir, it
ठीक से
was
बोल भी
not
नहीं
at
पाते
all
हैं।
problem from your side. It was very beautiful, like nicely done. So if there is no other question, so I will request Surendra ji to kindly give some your insights on this talk for 1 or 2 minutes. Surendra ji, could you please come? Yes.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आदरणीय मृगेंद्र विनोद जी। आधुनिक विज्ञान में आईआईटी से बीटेक करने के बाद गुरुकुल में जाकर,
सुरेंद्र जी थोड़ा सा करेक्ट करूंगा, आदरणीय मृगेंद्र जी हैज डन हिज बीटेक फ्रॉम एमएस यूनिवर्सिटी बड़ौदा। एम आई करेक्ट मृगेंद्र जी?
यस यस, ओके।
हाँ, मैंने आपसे कहा था इधर ज्यादा देखो,
बट इट डजंट मैटर,
बड़ाई अच्छी नहीं होती,
नहीं डजंट मैटर,
नहीं मतलब कहने का मतलब है कि देखो हमको तो आईआईटी का उस समय में हमको तो पता भी नहीं था कि आईआईटी,
दैट इज वेरी स्मॉल थिंग फॉर यू,
गुजरात के,
यस या
यस कहने का मतलब हम तो बहुत ऐसा कुछ नहीं।
बीटेक करने के बाद जो भारत की परंपरागत शिक्षा पद्धति से वेद आदि शास्त्रों का अध्ययन भी उन्होंने किया है, और अब भारतीय दृष्टि से भारत का इतिहास में अपना महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दे रहे हैं। आज उन्होंने वेद शाखाओं के माध्यम से, या वेद शाखाओं के माध्यम में जो भारतीय इतिहास का कालक्रम उपलब्ध है, वो अवेलेबल एविडेंस के आधार पे हमारे सम्मुख प्रस्तुत किया। उसमें से चूंकि वो संस्कृत बहुल था, इसलिए शायद हम लोगों के लिए वो कठिन गया होगा, लेकिन हम में से अधिकांश लोगों ने एक बात सुनी होगी कि भगवान वेद व्यास और उनके शिष्य परिशिष्यों ने वेद शाखाओं का प्रवचन किया। भगवान वेद व्यास और उनके शिष्य परिशिष्यों ने वेद शाखाओं का प्रवचन किया, वेदों का विस्तार किया। ये हम में से बहुत लोगों ने, ये सब ने ये विषय सुना होगा। आज आदरणीय मृगेंद्र जी ने जो उन वेद शाखाओं में से जो साक्ष्य, जो एविडेंस हमारे साथ रखे, उससे ये उन्होंने सिद्ध किया कि अनेक ब्राह्मण ग्रंथों का जो साक्ष्य है वो 2900 बीसी जाता है। और हम सब जानते हैं कि वेद व्यास और महाभारत ये समकालिक हैं। वेद व्यास उस समय उपस्थित हैं और उन्होंने महाभारत के अनेक प्रसंगों में वे प्रत्यक्ष रहे हैं। तो हमारा अब ये जो था, महाभारत 3100 BC है, उस बात को भी ये वेद शाखाओं का जो कालक्रम है वो सिद्ध करता है, क्योंकि मानते रहे हैं कि आज जो उपलब्ध वेद शाखाएं हैं, ब्राह्मण ग्रंथ हैं, उनका प्रवचन वेद व्यास और उनके शिष्य प्रशिष्यों ने किया है। बात को ही आज साक्ष्यों के माध्यम से आदरणीय मृगेंद्र विनोद जी ने सुदृढ़ किया है। उनके आभारी हैं। यहाँ
Abhay ji, please mute your mic. Abhay Marathi ji, please mute your mic.
उन सबका मैं आभारी हूँ और आगे भी ऐसे ही सबका सहयोग हमें मिलता है, मैं आशा करता हूँ। आदरणीय मृगेंद्र विनोद जी और अन्य सभी उपस्थित जनों का मैं धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, Surenji. Today we had some technical problem when we started our meeting at the beginning. And this is the beauty of a intelligent leadership, I can say, that when we were not able to connect ourselves from India, so our Dr. Subroto ji has taken the lead role, suggested us to connect from US. So I am very much thankful to Dr. Subroto Gangopadhyay ji, Sahana ji and Vikas ji, because they have given all the technical support from other sides. And so I am very much thankful to Vikas ji and Sahana ji also personally. And I would like to have one more comment, or I can say anything if for the today's meeting, if anyone wants to speak. Perhaps no. And I don't see, but I think Dr. Subroto is not here right now. So Vikas ji, again, thank you so much. Sana ji, thank you so much. And Mrugen ji, it was really a fantastic talk today. So much depth and deep information from our Vedic literature. And this is something very students, I can say, like us, it is difficult to realize that how a person coming from a tech engineering background goes so much deep into our Vedic literatures. So you are wonderful, and I hope we will meet sometime personally in some conference or seminars, and with the time, with your guidance, we will also enrich ourselves time by time. So now I would like to close the meeting, and may I now request Vikas ji to kindly close today's meeting.
Yes, thank you, Siddharth ji. Today we proved that IHAR is truly a global organization.
Yes.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending, and we'll continue this wonderful webinars later.
Okay, thanks.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye. Namaste.